everyone. My name is Alex. I'm from Ukraine. I'm co-founder and CPO of Skyworker. Our users are software engineers, and they say that Skyworker is like Tinder for tech jobs. And while I have been preparing to this speech, I have recalled everything that has happened to Skyworker during the last few years, and now it looks like a cool scenario for the adventure movie. So now I would like to share a main plot twist with you of the story. So to begin with, Skyworker in its latest version is 1.5-year-old product. But the story behind it starts 6 years ago, when we have been running our own recruiting agency. Back then, we really loved working for tech people, but all of those traditional recruitment approaches and recruitment tools we had to use on a daily basis, they didn't really inspire us, and their performance became worse and worse year over year. And one day, we figure out the main insight that experienced software engineers are way overloaded with the job offers from recruiters. And that is why they do not answer them on LinkedIn and barely never apply on the job boards. So this was the point we decided, made an obvious decision hustlers usually do, to close the profitable agency and to start our own startup journey, Skyworker. Jumping a few years ahead to the current times, what we have developed is an app where developers can feel in control, safe, calm, and fun. And this approach, they really loved it. They are returning to Skyworker on a regular basis, even on the coffee breaks at work or on the beer nights with their friends even, just to swipe on jobs here. This is how we got 30,000 registered candidates. They swiped more than 450,000 times on jobs, just in 1.5 years. And with this extremely high user engagement, we have shortened the time to hire period to up to just 3 weeks, and each 10th interview on Skyworker converts into a successful hire. So these are the numbers we are very, very proud of, but our way to reach them was the real adventure. So imagine the year 2019, 3 girls, no funds, no development team. Sounds like a pretty good start, though. This is how our bootstrapping period began. To be honest, the only thing that we have done quite well back then was talking about our idea. We were so passionate about it that there was no stage of the tech conference or the tech competition of the startup where Skyworker was not represented. Like the biggest conference in Ukraine IT Arena, Web Summit at Lisbon, sTARTUp International. We were so passionate, as I said, so we have won almost all of those competitions. But the main benefit of being there was not victory itself, but the possibility to build a thorough network of people who later helped us to fundraise, to grow a team, or even to find our first early adopter clients. We even find our CDO in the sky due to one of the tech conferences we attended. It was back in 2019. My co-founder was returning from the Web Summit conference back to Kyiv, and on the plane, she sat next to one young engineering genius, and they started to talk for hours about recruitment sphere, the problems on both sides, candidates and companies, and 4 hours later, my co-founder proposed to him, and he said, yes, I will be your head of engineering. And that is not the only story. We found our first angel investor on one of the tech competition of the startup in the most unexpected place for us. So when we have won the Seed Stars Ukraine competition for startups, we've been invited to represent the Central and Eastern Europe on the international level. And we asked, so what is the location of the event? And they answered, Kazakhstan. And we were like, okay, let's Google the weather forecast. And it was like minus 36 degrees in Nur Sultan that time. But still, we booked a flight. And after the competition, one of the jury members approached us and offered to cover the whole pre-seed round of $150,000 for us. And he was one of the most famous angel and VC investor in Kazakhstan, Murat Abdrahmanov, and now he's on board with us. So I guess the main thing that helped us not to surrender and keep growing no matter what back then was our ability to be everywhere. And this is like a sincere recommendation for the conference like this, to meet people and learn from that ones that already achieved something that you are just striving to get. So, getting back to the story. Focusing on one feature, what have we learned after we got CTO finally and after we got pre-seed investments? It was launching our first version of the product. So as I said, like the latest version is 1.5-year-old product, but back in 2020, we came up to the market with the very first, very cool, as we thought, version of Skyworker. And despite the fact that we took part in a Y Combinator startup school and we've been told like a million times to focus on something really small, narrow, and specific, especially in the MVP, we had so many ideas that we wanted to implement everything at once. And it turned out that we created a product with a huge division of features no one wanted to use. Just look at this simple scheme of Skyworker back then. We really thought it's clear and narrow and understandable at the first sight. So with this type of product, we entered the COVID time. So we had to reanalyze everything we had to make our product fit into the changing landscape of the recruitment field, where the talent gap was even bigger and the trend for remote work leveled up. So after one really long brainstorming night, we came up with a solution of cutting almost 70% of all the code we wrote and all the functional we had, and to stay with small, narrow, really promising and interesting for us feature, which was swipe. As simple as it is, you get matched with the relevant jobs, you swipe on them, and you choose the best one. And this is how, with this focus feature, we got our product market fit, and all those 30K registration and 450,000 swipes prove that finally we created an approach which is curing the pain on the market. The second lesson, suitable business model. Frankly speaking, we screwed in making money at the beginning, and the problem was that we were trying to implement SaaS business model to marketplace at the beginning. It's extremely hard to do this because firstly, you need to solve the chicken and egg problem. Then you need to gain a critical user base, and finally, you need to persuade your existing client that they will get your expected result during the whole subscription period. So we didn't make those previous steps done and tried to make SaaS, so we obviously failed. And during another really long brainstorming night, we decided to change the business model and to replace it by the pay-per-lead business model. It is one quite common in marketing field, but barely never used in recruitment. And the first months we adopted it, we became profitable. So now companies pay us for each mutual match they got on Skyworker, where both candidates and companies agree to talk to each other. Like, basically, we are making money on each interview. And just in 1 year after we adopted this approach, we got 10,000 interviews on Skyworker with the cost per interview $120. And only recently, when we gained this critical user base and we became interesting to the enterprise companies, we came up with a fixed price annual subscription model so that they can get a certain amount of interested candidates during some period of time. So the main outcome is look precisely what model to choose at the beginning, whether your capabilities allow you to make money on it, and if you can't find a suitable business model in your field, look around. Maybe it already exists in some other fields, and you can simply adopt it and go ahead of your competitors. The third lesson, be bold. Recruitment is obviously a red ocean. Copycats appear and disappear each month, and to stand out, you need to be different, not only with your product, but also with your words and with your actions. So we have experimented much and created lots of growth hacks, and would like to share one case with you. So last summer, we launched a referral program. It is quite a common thing, right, referrals, but we made it special. Firstly, about the partner. We have chosen as a partner the biggest wine exporter in Ukraine. And the referral prize was a bottle of the Australian wine. And the way of getting this prize was shaped in a game. So each user had the digital empty bottle of wine in their accounts. And each time they invited their friend to join Skyworker, the bottle was filling in with wine. And finally, when the bottle was full, they received the real bottle of wine as a gift. And this campaign, it caused a huge buzz on the market, and it tripled our registrations with zero budget. So using such unconventional marketing approaches really supported us back then. So it's a nice recommendation, especially when you're bootstrapping, to use such cost-effective methods. And before the February this year, we were on the stage of raising the seed round, of closing it almost, and afterwards we wanted to scale to the new markets, to go in expansion. But on the February 24th, the whole world and time has stopped for us. And during the first week of the full-scale war, all we could think about was staying alive, protecting our families and our team. On the second week, we gathered on a strategic session to come up with a rescue plan for the startup. So we had, really pushed us to scale in an urgent mode to the new markets, and we decided to start from Poland. So three of us, me, my co-founder, and our chief marketing officer, we moved to Warsaw. We rented one apartment for three of us, and it became our startup house for the following months. And about our strategy. Before the war, the majority of our users, candidates, they were from Ukraine. And on the February, the majority of companies frozen or stopped their hiring in Ukraine. So we had to come up with the two-side strategies for both our groups of users. So first part of the strategy was about acquiring candidates from Europe, and we started from Poland. And basically, we have now candidates from 92 countries, organically mostly, and even Ukrainian engineers help us because they are now spread all around the world, and they are spreading the word about Skyworker too. And the second shape of our strategy was about acquiring international companies that are ready to hire both European developers and particularly Ukrainians. It is kind of our internal mission to promote Ukrainian engineers on a global level because they are very experienced guys. They are now in the safe regions. They are ready to work remotely, full-time. They have a good English. They have experience working with the foreign clients, and they are struggling to find a new job. So the best period of time to hire Ukrainian talent is now. So now it's been 6 months from the full-scale war, and we got back to the pre-war user activity on the platform. And the good thing is this activity is now divided between different countries. And we started acquiring many users as companies from the EU, from the Canada, US, and the UK. We focused on big enterprise companies to feel more stability into this world recession coming. We got funded and mentored by Google for startups. And finally, we got back to the conversation with the VCs and angel investors on the seed round we have frozen before. So I think that we have pretty optimistic vision of our future. And the lesson we've learned as a startup that faced the war may be pretty lyrical. Stay calm, stay strong, adapt, and fight for a startup for what you've built. And the last thing I'd like to share with you is the philosophy of the company, because it's something that makes your startups more than just a set of features and a P&L table. So Skyworker for us is not just the name of the company. It is our philosophy. How do we divide professionals according to their attitude to their careers? The first type is water workers. Those are professionals who just like go with the flow, where the flow takes them. They are not really persistent and permanent on their career path. The second type is earth workers. Those are the people who search for stability at work. They want to work in a comfort zone. The third type is Skywalkers. Those are the people who want always to grow further, to get more responsibilities, to get paid more, and to become better professionals. And the fourth type is fireworkers, obviously. Those are the people that are just bursting with such many ideas that they are more likely to become entrepreneurs than employees. So our initial goal is to collect on one platform, on Skyworker, professionals which are really Skywalkers, so that companies could hire the best, the most experienced, and the most ambitious talent on their team. So I guess that is it for me for today. I hope that my lessons of my startup journey touched someone's souls of yours. And if you want to keep track on what's going to be a Skywalker in the future, feel free to find me on LinkedIn or catch me up here today later. So I wish you huge successes in all of your beginnings. Stay hungry, stay foolish, and have a nice ending of the conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Oleksandra, and a lot of respect. Oh, no, anyway. Okay. We have time for a couple of questions, so you can scan the QR code if you have any questions to Oleksandra. One question, do you sometimes wish that you started your business like 5 years ago or 5 years later to avoid all of this?
It's a good question. I'm keen to think that everything in our lives comes in the right time, in the right place. So if it would come further, like later or earlier, maybe it would be worse. I don't know.
But what are your tools for dealing with all the obstacles, like the big ones, like global pandemics and all?
Like in the business or personally?
Like personally, how to cope with things like that?
Actually, like during the last 6 months, I took part in 2 really cool mentorship programs. One was from the contributor, Kokon. It was specifically designed for Ukrainian startups, and it was a nice, it was like a mentoring session, but more about founders' mental health, and we dived deep into our feelings and how does it influence our startups. So it really helped on that point. And after, when we got funded and mentored by Google for startups, they had like additional program with resilience topic. So they had a lot of mindfulness sessions and breathing techniques. So it's really simple, and I was really skeptical about things like this before, but now I think that this easiest thing, they might work for us. So yeah, I practice it.
Okay, are there any specific like habits or actions that, something like really practical that we could take away and start practicing?
Oof.
You can also say no.
I don't know. Try to make morning yoga from time to time, especially when you're 25 plus. It works. It's worth it.
Okay, thank you so much, Oleksandra. Give her another big applause. Thank you, amazing talk.
Thank you.